Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Welcome to the Kratos Iron Maelstrom Barb. So they buffed a lot of uniques and legendaries that are associated with this build here, and it has a pretty cool playstyle. As you guys can see here, we can basically just walk around with chains and we can kill enemies here. And they introduced like a new unique and stuff. And it's a very used to be like a pretty popular build here. But it is very weak in the sense that it just doesn't have enough damage at the moment. And this is the new unique here that they introduced, the Unbroken Chain. But this is, and I think they said this in the developer stream as well, more catered to a support Barbarian playstyle. And I've been trying to make it work like as a, sort of DPS skill, and it kind of works in the open world and Helltide. It's a pretty fun build and a pretty cool build to play. But the problem is it just doesn't have enough DPS, like overall, if you're looking at the things that you can do with this build. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about some suggestions, and I show you some stuff here of the build. You can definitely try it out. There's also gonna be a planner here that I made in the description if you want to check it out and test it on the PTR. And there's some pretty cool synergies with Unbroken Chain and also like anger management, some of the new aspects that they did here. But yeah, overall the build still lacks a lot of damage, and it's pretty cool to play, but just in the end game, if you're reading the skill here, so you're basically switching your weapons. You guys can see this here. Like I start going into some monsters, and you do one swing, you switch your weapon to a mace. You do another swing, you get two-handed sword, and then you do this final swing, and this is the coolest one. Boom, it's like a 360, like a big whirlwind, Just like we all like the whirlwind barb, and this is like crazy whirlwind range, basically killing everything. And you can also throw your chains now. You see, this is like an ultimate that usually has a cooldown, but you can just throw your chains like twice, and then I have the cooldown back. So I'm utilizing the Unbroken Chain, I'm utilizing the third blade, and we are utilizing just the synergy of weapon switching, which can give and unlock a lot of additional benefits. The only problem is the damage here is just too low. And I can show this to you here, for example, in a run. I mean, this is going to be a good one, and this is going to be a bad one. And let's do the bad one first, and I'll show you just the problem that the build has. It's amazing for speeds. Like, you can do this in Helltide, and like, I've done it in the open world. That's really cool. And I really like that they are trying to, make more builds accessible. But the PTR in general, I think, is moving in not a cool direction at the moment. With some of the endgame systems and some of the changes that they made to the pits, where they just made progression like way harder to come by. They made it way harder to kill the bosses, and these kind of things is not the good direction for the game, in my opinion. You can let me know in the comments, but it's basically not fun to do stuff on the PTR at the moment. We also have not a good test environment here. But yeah, let's talk about the build a bit. So you guys can see here, we can basically like use leap, and we can pull the enemies in with our chains and then just like blast them down. So this works very well here. We're in the Nightmare Dungeon 90. But you also got to consider that I have a couple Uber uniques here. I'm playing Shaco, Tyrell's Might, Starless Sky. Obviously you don't necessarily need this, but it sure can help, especially with DPS. You also don't need to play the Starless Sky. You can play a Leap Ring. We can switch this so we can like leap around a bit more often and get some cool synergy that way. The DPS is okay for Nightmare Dungeon 100, but if you're doing like any high content, it's going to be very difficult, and I'll show it to you here also on the boss. We usually have some problems. You can use leap in this build just to like, get around the map faster. And you guys can see here, we can just boom, pull these in. It's basically a bleed focused build. We're also playing Gushing Wounds. I'll talk about the setup here in a second. And yeah, we can rock like through normal dungeons, but I've tried this in 100 and it basically does no damage there. You guys can see here, we're bleeding for like a couple million. But other bar builds like such as Flay, they get way more. And here you guys can see one of the problems here on the boss. So we just engage this boss now. And we're basically constantly resetting our cooldowns. So the build is fun to play. But now we're fighting this boss. And he definitely takes some time. You see there was also a bug there where the boss just healed. And this continues to happen. So yeah, you guys can see here, like on single target, I mean, you can add something like Death Blow. But I feel like in general, the ultimate should do some damage to the bosses too. And there's definitely a lot of things that could be improved about. So now the boss is stunned. We can get some more stuff going. Boom, boom, boom. Spam some buttons, and then now the boss is dead. But you guys can see a single target is not really in a good place on this build. Out of that, we killed this boss. And that's basically the synergy here, like Nightmare Dungeon 100, pretty well. You can also play Ancient Oath and just pull stuff. We can do one more key as we explain more about the build. Let's do an Uldur's Cave here. So this one doesn't have the boss, it's a lot more comfortable to play. But it's still very painful. And if you're taking this in any high pit or even against the tormented bosses, you're not gonna have a good fun with it. But yeah, for Helltide, it's a cool playstyle. People call it like the Kratos Barbarian because it just has like a similar like feeling to it. And it definitely does. It's a cool build, but I think even if they would give it, you know, on the amulet, in terms of damage reduction, it's fine. But I think it should also make Iron Maelstrom deal significantly more damage. If you're just looking at the skill here, with one weapon you do 60%, with another weapon you do 20 and 120, and with a third one you do only 30%. And that's just not enough to compete with even some of the basic skills that just deal more. There's definitely some cool synergies that you can do with Earth Striker, or here what I'm doing here with weapon switching. So we have the Furious Impulse here that weapon switches, and we are basically inflicting bleeds, like because the bleed is the strongest damage here, 120, and we have a good way to scale it with Gushing Wounds. You can also play this build with Unconstrained. But I think they need to add like a damage multiplier on this amulet. Like it's like a pure support thing at the moment. And I think it's like a bit of a wasted opportunity. But you guys can see here, like in this dungeon, I think we'll do relatively well. Like no boss and stuff, and we can pretty much just go. So just can see here, like it is a cool and fun build that you can definitely play around. It's just not gonna be like anything like serious that you want to do on like a high tier. But it feels pretty cool to just play it. I think we're gonna go and play it with Grandfather. So you're just gonna have more DPS. But the new Steel Grasp, especially if they rework the Ancient's Oath, it will have a good synergy. It also has 12 ranks to Steel Grasp, which is definitely pretty cool to see. So you guys can see here, like I'm just doing like more speed focused clear now here. And we can basically just jump around and use our Steel Grasp and all of our abilities to yeah, basically just inflict some decent damage here. So we can just pull them together and just slash them. So it has potential if they just, like, you know, give it some damage. It has potential to be a pretty cool and unique barb build. And I think the setup here that I put together, obviously you always want 3 shouts and stuff, it can be pretty decent. Oh, why did these guys not get hit? If they just fix like some single target damage or something of it. And obviously I'm still getting used to the build, like we just don't really have much time and not a good way of testing things on the PTR because we don't have all the new gear and stuff. But I'll go over the setup after this clear. So you guys can see here, the AoE is insane. And man, I was just kind of wishing that my Whirlwind at some point is going to have this AoE. But they capped the size, so you can't really reach that anymore. Yeah, here we're just going in and we're just slashing. And obviously this is also a more active playstyle. It's not like gonna be like your one button build, you know. Like you're gonna have to press a couple buttons for this build. But that's where you get like a pretty cool playstyle, I think. You can also just leap, boom, slash everything dead. You again pull them in and they instantly start bleeding. And you can do this completely without Uber Uniques, and it's probably going to be a very similar result. I don't even know if I have another helm. We can play this helm. And now I have no... I don't even have a chest, so let's just get rid of the chest. So now I have like no Uber Uniques, and I think it's going to be just fine. I don't even wear a chest right now. But yeah, you can do this either way. I'm going to fight some elites here. Obviously I don't even have armor cap now. But again, don't think we're gonna necessarily need it. So we can just pull them and just slash them like that, basically. So every time we slash, you guys can see how much bleed. Well, how much, but we definitely inflict some bleeds, right? So it works either way. Obviously, with Ubers, it's a bit easier. But once they rework Ancient Oath, it's gonna be decent, I think, to have this. So they already mentioned that they're gonna rework all the old legendaries, and it actually has like decent stats already if they just make it higher. And also a 1.6 multiplier is not too bad. And you have the new Unbroken Chain Amulet. I'm playing Bolt's Chieftain. I'm playing Giant Strides here. We're playing Elements. We are playing Third Blade. This one basically makes your Steel Grasp have no cooldown. And we also took the additional charges here, because per additional charge it now costs 5 less Fury. So we can combine this. And then we have Berserk Ripping. And keep in mind, I have just Flay Duration everywhere. So I'm not really optimized in terms of tempers. I have the new Rakhanov's boots for the cooldown reduction, because you want 20 seconds cooldown ideally. I even have 14. You guys can just see here, like, it's basically one Steel Grasp and then one Warcry with my Marshal to instantly reset the Iron Maelstrom. So boom, I just hit one button and boom, and then I can do it again. So that's been pretty cool. Then we're rocking Tybert's Will to get resources every time. We have Anger Management. This one is one of the new ones. It gives us perma berserking. You guys can just see here how it is constantly up here, my anger. And then Tyrell's Might. You can also just play a defensive one here where Leap gives earthquakes and defenses. But I like Tyrell's Might. And then Harlequin's Crest. You can also play the Tusk Helm. And actually the Tusk Helm, you see, has a pretty cool synergy. You guys can even see the visual and you can even hear it. It has a, and if they rework this, it's going to be amazing, I think. An amazing alternative even to Shaco right now. Because, you know, on your ultimate you don't get 4 ranks from Shaco, so it's pretty good. And it basically auto-triggers it. Every time we gain Berserking, we have a chance to trigger this. And you guys can see here, we gain Berserking like once every like 1.5 seconds or something. So it's always triggering this helm. So let me unequip it. You'll see the proc. Unless I already had it. I think I already have it. You guys can see in your cooldown reduction stats. But this is basically always up. You see 22. This thing is basically always up. Can't even get rid of the proc. Okay, looks like it maybe have snapshotted. Okay, cooldown 13. You see, now I don't have the proc. Boom, and then it's instantly up. You guys can see this like the red thing around me. And it has a pretty cool synergy, and if they buff it, it's going to be very nice with the anger management. There, boom, you see this procs now. Now it works. I think it's snapshotted or something. There's still some snapshotting issues. So yeah, there's some pretty cool synergies. And then I'm going to show you, we have the Axe Expertise. These are my current stats here. So we're rocking all rays. I didn't even have armor cap here. You can like drink some soothing spices. But you also get infinite resistances here with this boots. They have 52 all res, so very easily here. I'm already like 12 over max, so that's a lot. And yeah, just some nice stuff. Then we have the skill tree. Looks like this, just 3 points, just 3 points here to unlock the stuff. Then we have defenses, we have the shouts. You can also play Iron Skin if you like. We have shout support, aggressive resistance. We have leap here with some fury. We have exposed vulnerability. This has a cool synergy with Steel Grasp where your weapon mastery is your core skill and stuff, and it works very well in combination. Then we have cut to the bone. Then we have counter offensive. Then we have Maelstrom. We have the weapon switches here. We have heavy-handed, and we have a gushing wounds skilled. Paragon tree looks like this. We're basically fully scaling gushing wounds. We have exploit. We have mortal draw because again we are switching weapons constantly with our ultimate. So boom, this is our mace. Boom, this is our two-hander, and boom, this is our dual wield setup. And we can just keep doing this basically, and just you know, like completely spam everything. And I think it's a ton of fun. Then we are rocking Carnage for more attack speed, Might here. So we have two-handers, right? So I like Might. And we have Wrath for more crit damage. We have Life, Hemorrhage for more bleeding, Blood Rage at 1.3, Marshal here for even more cooldown reduction. And then I have Ira here for just some good berserking damage, and Decimator, of course. So yeah, the build is cool to play. It's fun to play in the open world, but you're not gonna have any fun in the pits with this. But if you just like to play, you know, a different build for Season 5, this one is cool. And I'm gonna give some feedback, and also with this video, I'm really hoping that we can, you know, instead of just getting a toughness buff, we can also get some much needed damage buff to Iron Maelstrom. I think the ultimate damage here could even be reworked. I have a very low roll, but again, the ultimate damage right now is only additive. So maybe what they could do is make the ultimate damage into like an X, like a multiplier, and give it like 4 or 5 times the damage with this amulet for Iron Maelstrom, or just the base skill. And ultimates seem very weak anyways. Like, you never care about your Call of the Ancients, and you never care about your Iron Maelstrom damage, because in comparison to all your other skills, which you can scale, they don't deal any damage. Like Call of Ancients, the only reason you take it is because it gives you attack speed and damage. But the actual damage of these guys, even though they buffed it, is just nowhere near enough. And I think it's the same with Iron Maelstrom. It has very outdated damage numbers, like 60% weapon damage, 20% weapon damage. 120 is maybe in the okay range, and then 33 is completely ridiculous. Like 33, man. You know, our basic skills deal way more damage than this. And this is an ultimate with a cooldown baseline that is like, I don't even know, like 40 seconds or something. Like if I remove all my cooldown, I have obviously like Iron Maelstrom cooldown here. But if I remove all my cooldown, I think it's gonna be like, yeah, 45-second cooldown. Like what the hell, man. So there's definitely a lot of things that could be changed there. But yeah, get Iron Maelstrom cooldown on your rings. This is helping out a lot. And that has been pretty much the build. If you want to try this Kratos Iron Maelstrom, like this is only like Helltide or Nightmare Dungeon. It's not really going to do you any good. And there's also a no Uber version here. I'm going to link those in the description. I'm going to give some feedback. I hope they buff the Unbroken Chains, and I hope they do a lot of changes in regards to what we had on the PTR coming Season 5. And I'm confident we still have 4 or maybe even 5 weeks, or like a bit more than 4 weeks until this goes live. And I hope that they can make this build a bit more viable with Iron Maelstrom, because it's a cool skill, it's fun to play, and people like it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you soon, my friends. GG. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.